Welcome to this Forage event. This is your host, Benji Sklar, and I'm really excited to have Ryan Eisenman, Corey Levy, and Daniel Frankenstein on the show today. What's up, guys?
Hey,
Going
Benji.
on?
So I'll give a little bit of background on these three. Daniel is the co-founder of Janvest Capital Partners, which is an early-stage VC firm focused on Israeli companies tackling the IoT ecosystem. Corey Levy is the founder of First Text, which is a text-based VC in San Francisco. And Ryan Eisenman is the co-founder of Arch, which is a investment management system that collects data for private investments into a single platform. And I'm really excited to have you guys on the podcast because I feel like you guys are at the forefront of the technology industry in regards to the coronavirus. So I'd like to just start with Daniel and ask him how, as someone who's a VC with portfolio companies, someone who's trying to raise money for a fund, how is the coronavirus impacting your entire business?
Yeah, no, it's a great it's a great question. I'll zoom out and say that I think that as a VC, you have to be cognizant of where you are in the cycle. Anybody who says that they can appropriately time the cycle, I think that's a little hard to do. But I do think it's not that difficult to diagnose where you are and act accordingly. And we at Janvest got started back in 2010 during a time when we were in a global recession, when we were kicked out of quite a few offices of people saying, venture capital has basically dried up. Why would you guys be raising for stuff right now? And one of the things that we told people was, hey, listen, it's dried up. That's exactly why we want to be out to market. So this isn't our first sort of downturn. And we actually internally projected that we thought 2020 was going to be a down year. We didn't think it was going to be this fast. We didn't think it was going to be for this reason. But we did anticipate 2020 being a more challenging year. So since 2018, we've been really pushing our portfolio companies towards liquidity opportunities. We've been raising capital not only for ourselves, but also encouraging our portfolio companies to raise larger rounds so that they would be able to weather a storm. And so I would say, we have raised enough money in our latest fund where we can run our business no problem. Most of our portfolio companies are actually pretty well fortified, have between 18 to 24 months of burn rate. And we're actually really looking forward to deploying capital in a bit of a more normal, less kind of crazy environment. I would not want to be out starting a raise right now, either as a venture firm or as a portfolio company. But for those companies that have raised, or those funds that do have a good portion that are already committed, I think there's actually a tremendous opportunity out there. And by the way, that's not at all to minimize the absolute human cost that we're experiencing right now. I think, you can't go any further without saying that, there's going to be a lot of hurt out there. There's going to be a lot of pain. But I do also think the innovation ecosystem that has been fostered over the last 10 years of this bull market actually is going to be one of the engines that develops, the technologies that are going to help us come out of this. So wanted to make sure to call that out before going any further.
I want to ask you about the IoT, but I'll let Corey take it from here. How, based off of what Daniel said, how are you feeling, Corey, in regards to your role as a VC?
Well, yeah, as I think Daniel did a great job answering that question, and millions of people are suffering right now. It's a terrible time. It's health is obviously everyone's top priority right now. But from a technology perspective, I focus on early stage technology investments and working with early stage founders. And great companies are started at all times. Right now, everyone is at home. Everyone has an excuse to be working on companies. So it's an interesting time for people starting companies right now, because there's literally nothing else to do if you're healthy and you're quarantined at home. So a bunch of college students that are, had a bunch of ideas. Now is a great time for them to start executing at home. The venture industry, I think, is going to come to a halt. It's going to be very challenging to get new deals done, although Zoom meetings are happening. But it's just really challenging to deploy capital when you are meeting with someone for the first time over the internet and not in person. But I'm still seeing deals get done every week, and people are fundraising.
Yeah.
So there's
All
a lot
right.
of capital out there.
That was interesting. What about you, Ryan? What are you seeing as a founder? I'm sure you're trying to drive your revenue, maybe working on your next round. How's the coronavirus impacted that?
So we play on the kind of two sides of this issue. One, as a company that would potentially raise capital and that has people to sell to, but then our clients also are investors. So we get to see a couple of perspectives of how coronavirus is affecting the investment landscape. For us, a lot of our kind of clients that were in late stages of our pipeline that we're hoping to kind of roll out our product with this quarter and next quarter, some of these engagements have gotten pushed because they in turn might be like an investment advisory firm that has clients that they need to work on, and they may have pressing issues, whether it's personnel issues or market issues that they're facing. So from that perspective, a little bit of a difficult climate to sell software, but at the same time, kind of what Corey said of everyone's home and they have no excuse, that same paradigm can be used in the same way of like there is an opportunity when business slows to be a business that continues to operate. And we potentially could use that as a way to find the ways that we can be creative and be value additive to investors and to our clients at this time. So what we're doing is trying to take a little bit of a step back and focus more on our products and think about like what products can we launch that will help our clients and potential clients now, but also how can we sharpen our axe so that we're ready when people are back to work and have new items to launch and new information that can help our clients and future clients.
Got it. So here's a question for you three. How can you leverage online events to help you with the situation you're facing? Because you said, Corey, like it's going to be hard for founders to raise capital if the first time they meet their investor is through a Zoom call. How can actually people leverage the internet to actually build rapport better than they would in person through the technology tools that we have?
Yeah, well, the great news is because everyone is at home and they have they're not out traveling or going to board meetings or everyone's just chilling at home. It's an interesting time to do that, like reach out to people that you have to be sensitive given what's going on in the with the virus. But if people are healthy, now is a great time to like reach out to brand new people. It's a great time to recruit. It's a great time to do these random Zoom sessions or FaceTime with people. So from like a cold outreach perspective, arguably now is the best time ever to do it because people do have people are at home and have no excuse to reply, and people are trying to keep like a normal work schedule to remain sane.
Daniel, what are your thoughts on that as someone who I'm sure people reach out to you for?
Yeah, sure. We're in a little bit of a unique position because, my team is in 3 cities on 2 continents. Our portfolio companies are mostly in Israel and have opened branch offices in many parts of the U.S., which include not just New York and San Francisco, but also Boulder, Colorado, St. Louis, Boston. So we're no stranger to our initial interactions and many of our, actual interactions being via Zoom. and sort of virtual to a large degree. That being said, like Corey, we're also an early stage investor. We really are creating lasting partnerships with entrepreneurs. We are not the kind of an investor that is, just an ATM machine. We lead in price every round we do. We are very active and very involved in pretty much every aspect of the business, especially right away as they're trying to establish product market fit and do all that kind of stuff. And so much of the deals that we do are based on a really good personal rapport and building that relationship. And I've never done a deal in my 10 years of doing this where I haven't met the entrepreneur in person. So I don't necessarily think that this is going to kill deals, but I do think it's going to slow down some of the pacing of deployment, because I do think that human person-to-person, face-to-face interaction is important. But I'm happy to leave the door open on this one as well, right? I just don't know how long this is going to last. It'll be very interesting to see how norms evolve because of this. But listen, there's a lot of people who are home, as Corey said. I think there's a lot of people who have a lot of time back in their day. Some of it's taken with, I got 2 young kids at home. So, I'm part-time VC, part-time chef, part-time homeschooler, so it's getting a little nuts, right? But I would agree that, with people not traveling, and with people having, maybe some more headspace for stuff, you obviously need to be really sensitive, but I do think, this is a good time to start having those initial conversations. There's also a large part of every deal that is objective and fact-based. What does your cap table look like? What's your governance structure? What are you thinking on pricing? Do you have an initial customer? What does that look like? Those are things you're going to do not face-to-face anyway. So, maybe you can change up some of the sequencing.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ryan? You're in a different role. You're the founder. You're looking to drive your revenue sales. How are you going about reaching out to prospects and building out your sales pipeline over the internet?
Well, I think there's an interesting paradigm in that, like, video calls are now the default medium. So where before you'd have in-person meetings and phone calls and maybe some video calls in between, I think while this has pushed a lot of in-person meetings to video calls, it's also pushed a lot of phone calls to video calls as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually is somewhat beneficial for building rapport, getting that face-to-face. And I think we're extremely lucky to be in a time where there are a lot of free video call options, and like Zoom, it has become the Kleenex of video calls. Great quality. It's almost like a Zoom commercial in every fitness class and every meeting. And I think a lot of people have taken note that this is a tool that wasn't available if this were to happen 10 years ago. So that's somewhat interesting, but I think it's just like trying to approach that balance correctly of being sensitive to people's needs at this time, where you may be trying to get on the phone with someone who now is playing parent and working at the same time. And so that brings its own challenges along with the actual challenges of COVID-19. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, while being sensitive to those factors, thinking about like, what can you do to actually drive business forward, which I think you can think about actually as a very patriotic pursuit. Because we don't want the economy to stop right now. We want the gears of the economy to continue turning so that there is progress and there is a world that doesn't take long to recover from when we are on the other side of this crisis.
I like that point a lot.
But by the way, I think that brings up a really important point. And I think that, it's something that, we all need to be thoughtful about. This current circumstance is also an incredible affirmation of enterprises need to be digital, of companies need to have cloud infrastructure, safe, secure, seamless delivery of all business applications to anyone at any time, in any place. And this is going to force large enterprises to digitize in a way that we have never seen before. We have never in the history of a modern economy seen a shutdown of this sort and the retreat to people working from home in this way. And there's a lot of businesses that just aren't equipped to do that. They don't have the infrastructure. They have a lot of on-prem infrastructure. They don't have a lot of stuff in the cloud. And I think this is going to accelerate a lot of those transformations. So with every challenge is an opportunity, and it gets to the question I think you wanted to ask, Benji, in terms of IoT, which is one of our investment focus areas. I would zoom out and say we like to call ourselves deep enterprise technology investors. Cybersecurity, data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, the connectivity, any connectivity solution, and the digitization of legacy infrastructure. We only build SaaS products. We only do web and/or software stuff. We don't build hardware. We don't have supply chains. We don't have logistics. We don't have to manage facilities. We stay out of highly regulated environments. We stay out of anything that has a government approval process. We stay out of pre-regulatory environments. For us, and it gets to your other question as well, because we actually did a second close on our new fund yesterday. But I would say that thank you. We've actually seen that the business case for what we are developing is even highlighted even more during this time. And I think you're going to see a lot of new adoption and a hunger for new technologies because of what people have learned in this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Besides cloud, what are the other industries or sectors that you see coming out of this? I want Corey for you to lead this question.
Yeah, great question. I think that answer is TBD, but we are seeing tons of remote tooling companies that were previously built, launch and relaunch. We are seeing the delivery apps spike. We are seeing, I'm trying to think of some non-obvious things. Have y'all seen anything non-obvious that has kind of that has spiked in this time?
I've seen a company called Hopin, which is an online events platform that's like Zoom 2.0. And
Yeah.
I think that it's going to take off because it's so easy to have. It's like chat roulette meets Zoom meets trade show. Check it out, HOPIN.
Send it to me. I'm curious. I might be throwing a digital event later this year. But and then the other question a lot of people are asking is like, how much of this is toilet paper versus new habits? So obviously there's a big spike in people buying toilet paper, but when we get this situation under control, people aren't going to be stocking up on toilet paper anymore. So, but I'm curious, have y'all seen anything non-obvious aside from Hopin?
No, I just think it's interesting how, I live in New York. I'm dialing in today from Manhattan, and, food delivery and everything being able to be delivered sort of instantaneously is kind of the normal in New York. Obviously, with Amazon Prime, it's pretty normal most places. But, outside of New York, I think that delivery of goods is less prevalent. I think more people are going to adopt, that having seen the convenience of that. I haven't seen yet anything. I think we're a little early in this to see something that's ready for prime time. It's also a question of whether people are going to run to do more online after this experience, or whether there's going to be a backlash the other way of people just craving human interaction. And sort of craving opportunities to get back out there. And obviously, I think there's some equilibrium at some point, and some balance. But I think we're a little early to see, that there's, something already that's, fully baked.
Yeah. Someone told me earlier today that they're hosting their events through VR. Everyone has an Oculus, and they're actually in the room with each other in the VR world. And I thought that was fascinating. I didn't know people were doing that.
That is interesting.
It's somewhat interesting that this is such a shift in reality to what reality was like before COVID and what it will be like after, and thinking about what businesses can be built in this environment that will have lasting power. There's a company that I came across that I think is pretty interesting that's connecting chefs and people who are food influencers or people who cook with an audience of home chefs. And it's kind of like a decentralized masterclass, allowing you to, if you're a chef, to teach a cooking class, get paid by the home audience, and then have the home audience cook in real time with you or access on-demand videos. Really interesting and powerful idea, especially now since there are so many people in the food service industry that are out of work. So it really fills a need. And this is a business that was being built prior to COVID. But at the same time, I wonder what this company's sticking power will be after this crisis, if these are businesses that can create their own habits with consumers, or if that is something that will be somewhat of a fad given this time. And like Daniel mentioned, that people after quarantines are over will go back to their traditional routines.
The other thing, and there's a sort of a more cynical point to make here as well. You know, with everybody utilizing these apps and everybody utilizing these technologies that allow us to connect, you know, in various ways, there's also an obvious security challenge as well. And that, you know, it's now never been easier to know where people are, to know what they're doing, and to be able to potentially steal identities, you know, steal money, log into bank accounts, do a lot of bad stuff. So I also think that there's going to be some interesting security breaches, and some interesting news that will happen over the coming couple of months, that I think there's going to be some real challenges on the security front. And I think that's something we also need to keep our eyes on.
All right. So before I wrap this up, I'd like to ask, what are some issues, problems that you're facing that you're not talking about, that people aren't asking you, and things that are being kept under the rug with your particular business? Because I'm sure people would like to hear it, because I'm sure they're dealing with it themselves.
I think one thing that's interesting, if you have a team that you work with and you're typically in the same room on a daily basis, how you keep close relationships with your team. And there's a few elements to that. One is like efficiency when you're working in a decentralized environment. So making sure that you're aware of what other people are working on, so that you can provide timely feedback and like iterate appropriately. You lose out on a lot of those just chance encounters and the conversations that happen in an office environment. And then the second one is just being supportive to your team and like continue to develop relationships and finding the proper cadence to check in and be on the phone. And if you have regular team lunches, do you do that over Zoom and kind of tackling some of these issues so that you are able to grow as a team and take this as an opportunity for growth instead of falling apart.
That's really good. I like that. You got anything, Corey? Where are you, on a beach somewhere?
I'm walking, but yes. What are I mean, I guess what was your question? Like, what are some challenges and?
Yeah, what are things that you're dealing with right now that you feel like are commonplace that people aren't really talking about in the mainstream?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are talking about this in the mainstream, but you know, people are definitely scared. You know, for businesses that rely on venture capital to build and create new things. You know, people don't really know how long that will last. You know, do they need to start making profits sooner than they anticipated? Do they need to be not reliant on venture capital sooner than anticipated? Is you know, a conversation that I think a lot of people are having and struggling. I think we've only seen the beginnings of these massive layoffs. There's this website that I came across yesterday called layoffs.fyi. You can, thanks to Ryan sent it to me, and you can see all of the you know, hundreds of companies that have started to lay people off. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe.
What do you expect with these unemployed people? Are they going to just get rehired after the coronavirus happens, or are they going to become freelancers and change their career trajectory?
TBD. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of big questions on like, will people even return to an office right now? Do people need an office that, you know, as they need like the super expensive real estate in Manhattan or in San Francisco, or do they not? So I think that's actually going to be one interesting thing that may come out of this is people no longer, like, real estate markets being more affected than we anticipate, given people making progress in this quarantine.
That's really interesting.
But I know that didn't answer your question, but that's something that I've been
Yeah,
thinking
like I'm
about.
sure a lot of like real estate owners, like office building owners are worried with what if people don't come back and everything turned into like a work from home model.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would say that one of the more interesting things about, and I'll answer this in a couple of parts. One of the more interesting things about this crisis, as opposed to anybody else, is, you know, in 08, 09, 2010, it was largely a financial crisis that had the biggest dramatic effect on those who had debt and exposure to real estate. Right. This crisis has no has no border. And has no sector focus, and this is going to affect everybody. And I would say we're at the very beginning of this, the first inning. Even if, you know, we might not even be in the bottom of the first yet. So I think it's important to recognize that things are going to evolve. A couple of the things that we're doing, and then I'll get into the one thing I don't think people are talking enough about, which I think they need to. So first of all, we are working with each individual portfolio company of ours to make sure that they're working very efficiently. You know, in an era of loose venture capital where you can raise, essentially good businesses can raise money on demand. You don't have to be as concerned with efficiency. You have to be more concerned with market share, land grabbing, you know, making sure that you have staked out your claim to an area. At a time like this, I think you have to be much more concerned about efficiency, profitability, and recognizing there's going to be a longer duration of time between funding rounds, and the decisions that you make today are more impactful. So we went from quarterly board meetings with our portfolio companies to monthly catch-ups with our portfolio companies. We're also making good on all of our commitments, whether those be ones from very recent or longer-term commitments. We're very thoughtful about bridging businesses that we feel like may you know, need you know, may need a little bit of extra time to achieve some of their objectives. But you know, I think that you know, some of the extreme projections, I think, are likely not to be the new normal. You know, one of the best things I always think about when anything happens is, you know, they always say it's never as good as it seems, and it's never as bad as it seems. It usually somehow over time finds a middle equilibrium point. And so, you know, I think this is going to get worse before it gets better. But I do think that it's not, I don't think we're all just going to suddenly transition to working from home only. I think that for a lot of folks, they're going to see that actually is kind of disruptive, and that there are some challenges that come along with that. The last thing I'll say in terms of what are people not talking about, I think it's the emotional side to this. It is not easy being home all the time. It is not easy being cooped up. It is not easy feeling like you have to let employees go. It is not easy feeling as though you are disconnected from people. It's not easy waking up at 4 a.m. with a crying kid and still being in the next room when you have your morning meeting. And I think that people need support. And I think that, you know, whether you're an investor in somebody's business, whether you're on a team with somebody, whether you're just checking with your friends, we are humans. Humans crave interaction. We crave physical, we want to be hugged. I know that sounds weird, but we do. And you can't do that physically now. But you should reach out to people. You should ask people how they're doing. You should take the opportunity to check in with people, because I think ultimately there's a lot of people feeling really alone right now, and also feeling like they have to deal with the most difficult decisions of their career at the exact moment they feel most alone. And I think that's what no one's talking about. And I think that's something that, we can all do a good job of supporting our friends and our communities.
Beautiful. That was really good. I agree with you. All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate this. This was awesome. And I wish you the best out there.
Thanks, Benji. Thanks for putting this together.
Of course.
Yeah,
Stay
thanks,
healthy,
Pete.
everybody.
All right. See you later, guys. Bye.